Welcome to the Thresholds of Reality, the podcast where we explore unexplained and mysterious events, phenomena, and legends. Today we're joined by Kelly and James of the That's Some Crazy podcast, where they also explore unexplained and mysterious events, phenomena, and legends. For you guys right now, I just want you to strap in as we explore the edges of the unknown. Kelly and James, thank you guys so much for joining us this lovely day. I know it's getting pretty cold. I got some family who lives in Utah, and they said you guys are getting snow already. Is that true? Is that true?
It's true. Yeah, we had some snow on Monday or Tuesday, right after Halloween.
Wow. Kelly, you're in Utah too?
No, I'm actually in Colorado, and we had snow.
Colorado. You guys never stopped getting snow, right?
Yeah, we had snow. We had snow yesterday. But today the sky is blue and it's warm.
I lived in Colorado for 3 days. And we had a layover at the Denver airport, and we got snowed in, and I got stuck in the Denver airport for 3 days.
There's some crazy stuff going on at the Denver airport too.
That's a whole nother story.
Yeah,
a whole bag of worms.
I love Colorado Springs. It's like my most favorite place on the planet.
Really?
Yes, I've got some friends and stuff that live there, and I'd go visit them, and it got harder and harder to go home back to Phoenix each time I went there.
Kyle dreams of Colorado summers, and I keep telling him he's not allowed to leave. Well, so the reason we've got you guys on is because we hear you've got some crazy stories to share about your experiences with paranormal.
Yeah, we've had our share. That was one of the reasons why we started our podcast, is because we were having these experiences, and you just can't find everyone to talk to them about them because they'll think you're crazy.
That's a common theme in a lot of our conversations with folks, is that you have an experience, you don't know how to explain it, and when you try, people just think you're crazy. What kind of reactions do you guys get when you explain? But that's changed, right? That's changed over time. So what are the reactions you guys get now that you've started your podcast? Is it still, oh, you guys are crazy, or that's weird? Or is it, hey, I had something happen to me and I want to share it with you?
Well, it's been my experience. It's changed recently where people are more apt to have that reaction. We'll have guests on our show. We'll be talking about a totally different subject, and they'll go, you know what? I saw a ghost one time.
And or they'll say, I saw Bigfoot, or
yeah,
I saw a cryptid, and just out of the blue.
And so I think people see it, but they are afraid to share because they get ridiculed. I was afraid to share my first experiences for years. I told Kelly, but there's other people, they probably still don't know what's been going on.
Yeah. So tell me, how did you kind of cut your teeth on the paranormal? Like what were the experiences that kind of brought you into this line of work?
Go ahead, Kelly. Why don't you tell them how we got started?
So, me and James has had more paranormal experiences than I have. And he would tell me weird stuff that would go down at his house, for example. James lives in a haunted house. I have already decided this. And he's always telling me about weird stuff that goes down at his house. And one day we're just talking like we always do. And he's like, we should start a YouTube channel. And I was like, yeah, okay. That's not gonna happen because you're not serious, dude. And then one day he's telling me about another experience, and that he'll tell you about when they went camping, and him and another guy saw the person that used to live in the cabin who had died. So we're talking about this ghost story, and he's like, we should start a podcast. And I'm like, if you are serious, and I'm gonna set up little meetings, and we're gonna have structure, and we're gonna do it right. If you show up, we'll do it. And I'll be goddamned if he did not show up to every one of my little meetings. And now we have a podcast. So really, it's more James. I've had a few I'm not one for ghosts. So James does like paranormal investigations. I'm here living vicariously through him. I don't do paranormal investigations. That stuff scares me. But he's had way more than I have. But I think I'm the person that he would tell that I'd be like, I would believe him. I would not. I would have no reason not to believe him. I don't think he'd make this stuff up. And then my little two paranormal experiences, I didn't tell mine until long after he told his. So it's really him. He was the catalyst, and I'm just the eye candy.
Well, that's like me and Kyle. Kyle's very sensitive, and we did a ghost hunt a couple of weeks ago, and the psychic who was on the ghost hunt told me I was a closed circuit. So that's very interesting that you guys have a very similar dynamic to what we're doing. But so Kyle is kind of the paranormal experimenter or experienced individual on our podcast. Sounds like, James, you've got a lot of experiences to share from your perspective. What was like the defining moment or the moment you realized, hey, maybe I've got some sensitivity here, and these things seem to be happening more to me than to other people?
You know, that's funny you asked that, because it took me years to realize that I've been told I'm an empath, and I worked in a field with our clients were very emotional, had a lot of mental illness I dealt with, so their emotions were always running really high, and I'd come home and I'd just be exhausted. And I never put the two and two together until when we were talking to one of our guests who, asked me these questions. And she goes, well, I can sense you're an empath, James. And then that's kind of when the light went on. That's why I feel these things going on in the house. And that's why I can pick up on energies and things like that. And it's been really interesting, because sometimes I still don't believe it myself. And I don't know if Kyle's has anything like that, but when someone tells you have these, powers, sometimes it's kind of hard to grasp. But then when you put it in context, you're like, well, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, because I never thought about it until same thing. Someone was on our show, and I was sitting there talking about some of the experiences and what goes on in my house and other houses that I'd lived in. And that's kind of, they're like, you ever thought that you're an empath? And I was like, I don't even know what that is. Like, I had never even looked up anything or even thought of that, just because it had been so common my entire life that I never thought twice about ever truly researching what it's like to have spirits drawn to you all the time.
Right. And growing up, my family was very non-traditional. They, I had older sisters who, were into tarot cards and, things like that. And my grandmother was Native American, so she would tell us stories, about skinwalkers when we were, younger and things like that. And so these things always seemed normal to me growing up. And then I think what really was the turning point when I told Kelly, we need to get this out. I really need to tell my story. Is we had gone on an investigation in one of these little towns here called Magna, and I saw things that there was no doubt in my mind that these things existed, and I always knew they existed, but now this is the verification. And that's when I told Kelly, I want to be able to give people a platform to come out and say, you know what, something like that happened to me too, but they're not going to feel like we're going to call them crazy.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of how we are too. We let people come on and tell their stories so that they feel comfortable in knowing that there's other people out there that experience and are going through the same kind of situations that they are, that they're not alone.
Right.
So when you guys, or James in particular, when you're having experiences or engagements or encounters, one of the things that I've noticed on the recent ghost hunts that we've done is I feel kind of like a tourist or like a visitor at a zoo, where I'm just kind of going to look at the specters and have them entertain me in some way. And which is not really what I'm looking for, right? What I'm looking for is some kind of connection or some sort of insight. And I don't know if you've been able to, in your experiences, kind of mesh those two, where you can both visit a new spirit and gain some insight and connection, or are you like me, where you're having to struggle with both? Struggle to connect the two.
Well, I think at first I was very similar to what you're describing. It's hard to connect those two because you want the entertainment, I guess, factor, but then there's that intriguing, like, there's something more to that than this. There's something we don't understand. The first investigation I went on, it started, he gave us a presentation and kind of what to expect, and it was almost like I don't want to say a show, but that's kind of the way he presented it. But then as it went on, I was looking back and I was like, well, he made sense here. He was telling us, don't just go by your own reactions. Look at the people around you, see how they're reacting. Are they having an interaction? And don't be afraid to tell these people, because they're all here for the same reason. And I think that's when I started thinking, wow, there is something here to it. But in the back of your mind, it is, I want to say, entertaining, but you also have to be respectful. I think sometimes people get in these situations where they go on these investigations, and I don't think they understand that you may find something that's not all that great and all that nice, and you don't want it coming home with you or interfering with you. So you have to have that kind of mindset too. You have to protect yourself, just like anything. You don't want to go in innocent about where you're putting yourself.
Yeah, you gotta not be naive about what you're getting into. And
yeah, I like that. Yeah, don't be naive.
I've always wondered who was the first person to figure out, if you tell a ghost, stay here, don't come home with me, they just go, okay. Like, I've never understood that. Like, who decided that? Like, and it, like if I was a ghost and someone said, don't come home, I'd be like, you know what I'm doing?
Yeah, I get you. I think
like,
that's where you have to be fit. You just kind of have to be true to yourself and hope that, that's the case. Because like you said, yeah, there might be one that's going to say, well, I was going to stay here until you said that, James.
You know what I mean? Don't tell me what I can and can't do. Like, I've always wondered that. So, like, when we do an investigation, I don't say anything like that. I don't say, stay here. I don't saying that because I've never really found the proof that actually truly, it's like a common theme that everybody does. But I've never, like what other rules though do the ghosts have that they have to abide by? Like,
I understand, and we've talked to some psychic mediums who we've asked that too. Because that's but at the beginning, it's like you're naive, like Sam said. I didn't know exactly what I was going on, and I'm not a religious person at all, so I'm not quote unquote saying prayers. But you ask for protection from whatever you believe in. Hope that works. If not, that's a different show.
Like, I haven't yet to have anything follow me home.
Yeah.
From any of our, experiences. So.
That's because you only open the driver's side door, Kyle. You gotta make room for him in the back.
Or you can just not go like me. Nothing follows me home either because I'm simply not there.
Or maybe I think the ghosts here go, you know what? There's 3 of them at your house. It's a little crowded.
That could be.
Hang out here where I've got my own space and I don't have to argue with the other ghosts that are here.
And all your cool stuff is at your place too, huh?
Yeah.
So have you had anything, Sam, that kind of just put you over the edge? You're like, yeah, that's what the point you changed your thinking.
I am a kind of a religious person, and I have had several religious experiences that I feel indicate that there's a lot more going on. And my mom has told my family, my brothers and sisters and I many times that she has encountered or engaged with my brother who's dead, or her parents who have died directly, which is a little bit different than how they teach us in church, right? They teach you to pray to God and Jesus and don't worry about anybody else. But she encounters other people, other people have passed, and so that kind of allows me to be open to it. But to say that I've had an experience where I've interacted or felt cold spots or anything like that, it just hasn't happened for me yet. I'm certainly open to it, at least willing for it to happen. But I've told several guests that may be a muscle I don't know how to flex.
I'm hoping some of mine mojo's over to him, so that he can get a little taste of the fun.
Kelly, didn't we talk to someone down in Phoenix that does paranormal investigations?
We did. I can't remember what they're called, but we did.
You'll have to hook you up with her because she has a lot of activity, and she documents it with video and audio, and she'll go in and do the history of the building, and it's really interesting. She might be the one to give you your first experience.
Yeah, I'm never going on one, and I haven't gone on one, but me and James have talked to a couple of psychics, and it's really funny because the one experience that made me really think that we were onto something with our podcast is I used to do another podcast, nothing to do with the paranormal, all about authors and their books. So I have this author come on. She's a psychic. She's telling me about her book, and we're having this great conversation. And she's like, Kelly, I got to tell you, I got to stop talking right now because you have somebody standing over your left shoulder. No. I can see them. I'm in the room by myself. I'm like, okay. She's like, well, it's an older woman. I feel like it's like she describes this woman to me, and she's describing my mother to a T. She described my mom to a T. Never met this lady before. She's like, yeah, she's standing over your left shoulder. She described what she looks like, everything to me. And I was like, wow. And that really kind of freaked me out because I keep looking over my left shoulder and there's nobody there. And she was like, she comes over and visits you often, but she's cool in the spirit realm, but she does come over and visit you often. And I'm like, okay, that's a trip. So the first person I call is James. I'm like, oh my God, my mom's haunting me and she's in the house. And,
Wow.
But, this is a trip. And this lady, I've never met this lady before. And she described my mom to a T, James. So we had her come on. That's some crazy shit. We're talking to her. She's talking to James. So I said, James lives in a haunted house. And she's talking to James. She's like, James, got to stop talking because you've got two Quaker people standing behind you, like dressed in old Pilgrim Quaker costumes.
Quakers.
What is that? Does that mean anything? And James is like, well, back in the day, that's the way the Mormon pioneers dressed. The land that I'm on probably was a farm of some sort. So that makes total sense. Not to mention, my friend James over here has portals in his house where spirits come pass back and forth. The whole thing's a trip.
Oh, yeah.
It is a trip. It is a trip.
We've heard about portals.
It's a trip. He's got some trippy stuff going on. So I just kind of live. And my only other experience is that I saw my dad come through the front door after he passed away. To this day, wow. He just walked through the front door. And I told James just recently, I told him this. I've never told anybody this, but I was like, those are my two. I'm pretty much done with the ghost. I go to the spiritual side. So I bring the psychics and the woo-woo, and James brings the ghost and Bigfoot.
The woo, I like that. Okay, so we've covered a lot about ghosts. Have there been any other paranormal experiences, maybe UFOs, maybe cryptids?
Oh, James, tell him about Bigfoot.
No,
yeah, tell us about Bigfoot.
Now this is funny, Sam, because after this happened, I was camping with some friends, and after it happened, I went and told them, hey guys, this is what happened, and this is why I never told anyone else. They immediately went into ridicule mode. oh, whatever, you're messed up, you're drinking what, you're full of baloney. And that reaction by these guys is what shut me down for years. But we had gone fishing here up in the Uenas, and after a while, we kind of went our separation. And I thought I'd take this logging road, so I'm driving up this logging road, 45 minutes an hour, just cruise along. And so I decided to pull over, and so I pull over and I jump out of my car, and it's the classic. You smell the real pungent, rotting meat smell.
Don't they call Bigfoot skunk ape in some places?
Yeah, in Florida they call them skunk ape. Yeah. And so there's just real pungent smell, and I wasn't really thinking about it. I'm saying, and then I tell Kelly, and to this day I can't emphasize the power behind this sound. It was just like a and it was like and just the power of it. I mean, literally, I get cold chills just talking about it. It just is so powerful. You can feel it. And it did that 3 times. I never saw anything. Okay. So I don't know what it was. Now I've been in the mountains since I was a kid. I've heard elk and deer and, bobcats, things like that. What I heard, I didn't recognize. I'm not an expert. Sorry, I get it. Still kind of freaks me out,
Wow.
And so, I jumped back in my car and I took off. I headed down the road as fast as I could go. But like I said, after the reaction, I never want to tell anyone. I mean, it rattled me. It still rattles me. You just can't describe the power behind it. And it's funny, after we've done these shows for so long, and I started doing more research, and now they're starting to say that Bigfoot uses low frequency sound to kind of scare whatever's around.
They call it infrasound.
Yeah, and tigers do that with their prey and stuff. And I was like, maybe that's what happened, because it did. It was just so powerful. It just resonated in me. But I don't tell very many people. Well, I told everybody now, but I don't tell a lot of people that, because they do. And sometimes it's still kind of hard to explain. I'm not saying I saw Bigfoot. I don't know what I saw, but it was different. Like I said, I've seen things move, ghosts move things. What I've seen that. I never saw what I would say was a Bigfoot, but it freaked me out.
Wow, that is chilling.
It freaked me out. And like I said, I won't. And just the reactions of my buddies. That's why people don't share their stories.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Hey, James, tell them the story about the portals in the house. Tell them how this is the freakiest story I've ever heard, and I make them tell it all the time. Tell them about the woman that you met that told you about the portals in the house and then disappeared.
Oh yeah, that was okay. Now let's preface this. This is when I was single, and so I was on the singles page, and this woman, we started talking, and it was like maybe a week or so, and it was going to be New Year's Eve. And she contacts me. What are you doing? I'm staying in. You want to come up and watch a movie? Well, no, I'd rather not, because I didn't want to drive on New Year's Eve. I know I'm getting old, so. And it's funny because Kelly knows me. I don't go out, you guys. I'm stay at home guy. And so, she invites me. I said, all right. Well, so she comes and picks me up, and we go and we watch a movie, and we're talking. And it turns out she's a psychic. She used to be a police officer and all this stuff. And she's bringing me home. We pull into the driveway, and I'm like, I appreciate it. Happy New Year's, good night. And she goes, do you mind if I come in for a minute, James? And I kind of looked at her, and I'm like, well, no, I guess that'd be cool, right? So we come in the front door. When you come in our front door, there's the stairs that immediately go up to the second floor, and there's a great big window there. And she's kind of standing there in the foyer, just kind of looking around. And she tells me, did you know you have portals here? I'm like, portals? What are you talking about? She's like, yeah, there's a portal right up here above, things come through. And she starts asking me, have you had any weird occurrences? And I've had weird stuff happen here. And I'm like, yeah, I have. So we're walking. She's walking around in my front room, and she goes, your mom's here, and she's telling me that the recliner, she's telling me that's Dad's recliner. And I'm like, this lady's nuts. I sit in that chair.
Look at you doing the same thing.
Yeah, I sit in that chair. That's not Dad's, And it didn't occur to me, and it's funny because it didn't occur to me until I was telling Kelly the story. My family has called me Dad since I was a little kid. But it didn't occur to me that's what, I didn't make that connection, so. And we're, throughout the night we're talking. We sat there and we talked for a while, and she says, yeah, there's portals that you have spirits come back and forth. And you have several in your house. And, so didn't talk to her or, said goodnight, and didn't talk to her for a couple of days. And I thought I'd contact her. And this was on Facebook. I found her, and I couldn't find her profile after. I looked all over for it. We had talked on Facebook Messenger, couldn't find any of the messages on there, and I looked for a while, and I could not find her. It was like she just disappeared.
She disappeared.
And it was weird. It seems like these people come into your life, and they come in here to show you something and tell you something or verify something, and then they just go. I still don't know what happened to her.
That's wild.
You never talked to her since.
Never talked to her again. It was
Wow.
And it was funny because I described Kelly. She was like this, middle-aged woman, but she had this long silver hair, It's like, and when it's going on, you're not thinking about this stuff, But then you look back and you're like, oh, that was kind of different. I never really thought about that, So yeah, that was a trip too, man.
Tell them about the smoke. Tell them about the smoke. That's another trippy story. Tell them about the smoke.
So I was sitting downstairs and I was having a smoke, and I was sitting at my kitchen table drinking coffee, and I'm smoking, and I go and sit down in my recliner, so I'm sitting in my recliner, and I look over, and I told Kelly, I swear in the smoke it said Mom, M-O-M. And just that quickly, I thought, did I just see that? And then the word yes came up. And I told Kelly, it tripped me out. I was like, because it was just that quick. And it's funny, I had to tell Kelly that story, and it took me a good 24 hours for it to really sink in and settle in. Because Kelly's like, did you really see that? And I'm like, yeah, I saw it. Well, did you know? I was like, yeah, but it did. It took a good 24 hours to let it sink in. Some of this, and it's funny because, when people have these encounters, it takes a second for it to sink in. It may take a week, a month, a year, whatever, but your mind has to kind of wrap itself around it.
And then after you heard the smoke, all the activity in the house. After you saw the smoke,
what happened?
What happened?
Then I started hearing sounds downstairs. We used to have a big German Shepherd, and on our hardwood floors, when he'd walk, you could kind of hear their nails make that sound on the hardwood floors, And I started hearing that shit. I haven't had a dog in 15 years or whatever.
And you're home alone. And
you're
by
and I'm
yourself.
home alone. I'll be sitting up in the office, and I'll hear someone walk up the stairs and walk outside my bedroom, and you get up, and sometimes I'll be honest, I don't want to get up. I'm just kind of like, okay, whatever, but it's a trip. Yeah. When you hear stuff like that happening and stuff, I've been sitting in a room and had someone call my name.
Or you've had Elmo talk.
Yeah. That was a trip too. Before my mom passed away, she wanted an Elmo doll for whatever reason. So, we get her an Elmo doll, and she ends up passing
Elmo
away.
sees dead people.
That was scary.
That freaked you out, James?
I'm in flashbacks now. I looked over there where that doll is, too. That doll's in my office. And so what happened one day, I was sitting there, and it started saying, "Oh, I'm Elmo, tickle me, ha!" And you're sitting there, and you're like, "Did I just hear that?" And just like that voice right there, did I just hear that? And it went off a couple times, and I remember Kelly asked me. I told her years later, whatever, and she goes, "Well, did you ever see if it had batteries in it?" And I was like, "Oh, hell no! If I would have opened it up and there would have been no batteries, I would have freaked myself out all over again. I would have never come in this office again.
Yeah. That's like that Chucky doll moment, right? You're like,
Serious. Yeah, I've had some
that's
weird stuff happen. You know, my family's had weird stuff. I've had friends have weird experiences, and you know, after a while, you're just like, hey, you know, this stuff's out there, and it can't always be explained. Science can't explain this stuff.
And I've been in your house, and I felt stuff in your house.
Yeah.
You sit in a certain chair, and that's the only chair at the table that vibrates. No other table no other thing at the table. It doesn't do it anymore, does it?
It hasn't in a long time, yeah.
But you just sit in this one chair, and for whatever reason, that particular chair just has all this energy and vibrates. None of the other chairs around the table, just that one chair. And James is always like, you know, when you come to town, Kelly, you can stay at the house. No, I can't.
I know she won't.
Because you live in a haunted house, and it freaks me out. And I know it's a haunted house. It's a haunted house.
Yeah. But it's not in a bad way. I never feel scared, or I shouldn't say scared. Sometimes I feel really apprehensive, but I'm not like scared. You know, it's.
You grabbed a weapon. Thing. You grabbed a weapon
one night I did, yeah, because that did scare me.
See,
but
not that that's going to go up against the ghost, but
I didn't know. I'll get the holy water next time too.
Well, that's kind of what I look at. You know, the difference between the zoo ghosts, right? You go to a cemetery, or you go to an investigation somewhere where the ghosts are kind of attached to that place, and you see them or you feel them, you interact with them on kind of a very surface level or superficial level. But the ghosts that are at your house, those are like the dogs that you come home to, right? They know your scent.
Yeah.
They interact with you on a more personal level. Do you find that you've been able to gain any insight from the ghosts in your house, or do they connect with you in any way and on a more personal level than the ones that maybe you've interacted with on your investigations?
Yeah, I think because you know they're family members. You know, I've been told my mom and my grandma are here. My dad floats through every now and then. You know, it's interesting that you asked that. I don't know, Sam. I've never had a message given to me or something, but you know, it seems like when they show up here at the house, I'm more comfortable. It's not a bad thing. You know, it's almost comforting. When I've been on investigations and I've seen stuff happen, I'm always amazed by it. You know, it's to see, you know, I saw a pair of rings roll across a table before. You know, I've seen, you know, the heat signatures on this, you know, the equipment and stuff. You know, one of the first investigations I went with a woman. She had pictures of this huge handprints, 2 of them on the wall. I don't know, they're maybe 7 feet, and they're huge. I mean, it looks like, you know, basketball Shaq's hands up on the wall, and I guess they've painted over them and washed them stuff. You know, they're still there. You know, when you see stuff like that, it's like, you know, that's interesting. You know, how do you explain that? Science can't always explain this stuff. And I mean, Kelly and I have talked about this. There are some people who refuse to believe this stuff is legitimate and it's happening because there's science can't prove it, or, you know, the scientific method, you can't recreate it. Well, some of the stuff you just can't recreate.
Right.
Yep.
That's why you need witnesses. Like the stuff, you know, I've seen weird stuff in the sky. Colorado is famous for weird stuff in the sky.
Yeah, it's hot
where
spot.
I've had to go, and I went, and one day I saw these, I don't know what they were, but they were hovering. They weren't moving, they weren't darting, they were simply hovering. And there were 6 of them in a formation, and I could see them clearly in my backyard. And I'm pretty sure other people saw them, but because I'm thinking that I'm not wanting to be the only one, my family, I was married at the time, and my in-laws were in town, and I went and grabbed them and said, come outside and look at this thing in the sky. And they're like, well, what is it? And I'm like, I have no idea. And I was telling James, and when I Googled it,
the government.
Yeah, they shut her down.
That's just hanging.
Shut it down.
I can't even get her to do that. Oh, it's funny.
I was gone. See, they don't want me to tell you. But when I Googled it the next day, they said that it was weather balloons. But there is no way that those could have been weather balloons.
It's always a weather balloon.
Always
We've
a weather
heard that
balloon.
one before.
And
Yeah.
there's just no way. I told James, I know what I saw. And it sat there for about 20 minutes, just in formation, not moving at all.
Yeah, they tell us it's weather balloons here too.
Yeah,
Or swamp gas.
right.
Yeah.
Although there's not many swamps here in Phoenix.
Yeah. Oh, you guys had a big one down there with the Phoenix lights, huh?
Phoenix
That was
lights,
a big
yeah.
one.
We've had a couple people on express different theories about it. Probably the wildest one was a guy said it was a living being, you know, a living thing. It wasn't a craft. He thinks.
Oh, it was a living thing.
Yeah.
Something that comes in and out of the portals of one of the mountains here.
Huh.
Oh, I haven't heard that one.
It's an interesting theory.
Yeah, and he said it's something that the Hohocom had followed from Mexico here into Phoenix because it was always on a path, and they actually followed them to the mountain, and then they kind of set up camp here at the mountain, and that's where you can see all the petroglyphs and everything now of the vortexes and the beings flying above them and everything.
Yeah, interesting theory.
It is.
Not widely accepted though. It's not widely accepted. We've had a lot of other people on the show who said they investigated the Phoenix Lights and they saw the craft. Our former governor, Fife Symington, actually saw the craft fly overhead, and he could actually see kind of the triangular edge of the craft, and the lights underneath were either keeping it up or were just there to kind of shine a light on the city or something like that. But yeah, widely varying takes on the same phenomenon.
Right. And how do you tell all these people, that they didn't see anything?
Right.
Exactly.
They obviously saw something.
When
they may not agree on it, what it is.
Remember, James, when we went to Sedona, and they said that there's parts of Sedona that you can go up at night, I guess in the day, and there are parts where there are I guess it's a no-fly zone, restricted, but there are things flying over there. Don't really know what they are. Have you guys heard of that?
Yeah, Sedona is widely known as, they call it a vortex, either an energy or spiritual vortex, and it kind of culminates around the prominent mountain there in Sedona. Again, I've been told I'm a closed circuit, so when I go to Sedona, I don't see or feel anything myself.
You just see the turquoise McDonald's and that's it.
yeah, the turquoise McDonald's. That's funny. Well, when we went to Sedona, it's funny. We went to one of the vortexes, and we're sitting in the truck with the guide, and he's telling us, some of the things that happens, and some of the reactions some of these people have. And as we're walking down and getting closer, I end up getting really, really nauseated and dizzy. And he's like, hold on right there, James. So sometimes this happens to people, And one of the other women we went, she wasn't feeling well either. And it's funny because that's one of the same feelings I felt when I went on one of these investigations, and we're using the EMF meter and all that stuff, and I got really nauseated and dizzy. So it makes you wonder, what is it that's affecting people that way? Physically that way.
Yeah.
Why are people getting dizzy and nauseated? And something's affecting people.
Absolutely.
It's the swamp gases.
It's the gases they get from the turquoise McDonald's.
Yeah. I'll make maybe a turquoise Taco Bell.
That's a good idea. No, definitely, it's widely known for that kind of spiritual energy, and who knows? It has yet to have an explanation as to what is causing or healing. A lot of people call it a healing vortex too.
Right.
I think there's some springs in the area that they go to and find some measure of healing there.
So, Sam, when you say you're closed circuit, does that mean you're not open to the idea, or do you think that just there's something that is in your body that doesn't allow you to feel these things? Are you open-minded to it? Open, or accepting?
Oh yeah, like I said, this is how a psychic on one of our ghost hunts described me. She called me a closed circuit, and she was at that moment. She was like, "Are you feeling this thing that I'm feeling right now?" And I said, I haven't felt anything change environmentally at all since we got here. And she kind of at that point shifted her focus to me, and she goes, "Yeah, I'm feeling you're kind of a closed circuit. You don't have any like exposure to any of this." And she looked at Kyle and she's like, "See, Kyle's, you can see he's got some exposure to it and he's feeling these things." And she said, "It's not a bad thing. It just means that you're not letting any of your energy out and it's not connecting with any of these things." So she says, "For me, a lot of me is exposed and it saps a lot of my energy to be in a place like this. Whereas for you, your energy is contained." That's what she meant by closed circuit. The energy stays in me. It doesn't interact with these entities or anything.
Mm.
As far as like skepticism, I have skepticism. My skepticism primarily is with individuals, not with the idea.
Mm.
Right? We've had psychics come on, a handful of psychics, probably 6, Kyle. And I think I'm not going to say or pass judgment on them, but I definitely felt more of a connection or more of a psychic ability with some of them, a minority of them, maybe 2 of them, than with the others. It's not me to. I'm not here to say that it doesn't happen or it's not real. It's just not, like I said, it's not a muscle I know how to flex. Some people can curl their tongue. Some people can raise both eyebrows individually. And some people can interact with spirits and dead people. And I can only curl my tongue and raise one eyebrow. I can't do the other one.
Well, you're halfway there. That's always positive.
Yeah.
So Sam, if you and Kyle too, if you guys could have an experience with the paranormal or cryptid, is there one certain one you'd want to?
For me, I would say I am most interested in this kind of connection with the afterlife, and mainly because the thing that I worry about the most is like being separated from my kids, and wanting to see them grow up and wanting to see them have kids of their own and kind of expand the family tree as far as it can go. And so that's kind of the thing that gives me the most concern is I would like to be at least a spectator in my kids' lives, even after I'm gone.
Mm-hmm.
I've had so many different experiences that you name it, I've probably encountered it. Everything from scratching to mischief to ghosts coming and screaming at me to like,
oh, no.
Yeah. So there's like not.
Yeah, Kyle's had ghost encounters of the third kind.
I guess that's scary though. I think I'd freak out if something yelled at me, to be honest.
Oh man, there's the new one that's been here. He hasn't been here in a few weeks, but what he'll do is he'll come in. Like the way my house is set up, it's my bedroom's here, and then there's a garage, and there's bedrooms this way. So there's a whole hallway past my bedroom. He walks in, he turns into my bedroom, he comes to the foot of my bed and goes, "George, where's George?" And he sits there and screams it. And I'm like, I don't know.
Dang.
I don't know George, man.
Yeah, my question, who's George? I'll get him.
Yeah.
Stop yelling at me. Yeah.
I was out of town one time, like a month or 2 ago, and my wife was sitting there on the bed. She wasn't awake. She wasn't asleep. She was just up. Lights were on, watching TV. It wasn't late at night. Like we don't have those. It only happens, during the witching hour type things. The stuff in my house happens day, night, morning, afternoon. There's no. And she was sitting there watching TV, and she said, on my side of the bed, somebody walked up wearing a black hat, a red and black like shirt,
Flannel, like a flannel.
flannel, and looked at her and then lunged at her.
Wow.
And then she like took the blanket and like threw it on it and like went out of the room, and it like, you know, it just kind of, you know, just laid flat back on the bed like it had disappeared.
Wow.
Yeah, Kyle's got a lot of these experiences. Kyle's been having them his whole life, basically, right?
Yeah.
So Kyle and I sound very similar, and Kelly and Sam, you guys sound very similar.
Yeah,
that's a good balance.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not one for ghosts though. I'm good. I'll be over here. You let me know. So I live vicariously through James. That's why I'm like, tell them all, you know, you go do the ghost hunts, you go look for Bigfoot. I'll sit here and talk to the psychics and some of the other craziness that we've had on our show. And we've also learned that, you know, when we started off, we were just, you know, we really thought we would just be paranormal. We really thought we would stick with cryptids and UFOs and ghosts. And then we realized as we started talking and having guests that there's a whole umbrella of other things that connect to the paranormal. Like we learned Bigfoot is, you know, can go through dimensions, right? Would have never learned that. That's what people, that's a theory that Bigfoot is, you know, has traveled to like Skinwalker Ranch.
And I was just up in that area.
And walks through portals. And, you know, we've learned that this one lady told us that there's over, you know, 10,000 ships right now surrounding the Earth that we just can't see, and that they hold conferences on Jupiter, on one of the moons. These are the people that, and so it's like, it is paranormal, but it's not paranormal. It kind of, it's weird how
it's become normal.
It's become normal. The people that we have attracted and the things that they say, because at the end of the day, the majority of the people that we talk to are all saying the same thing, which makes me wonder, is there truth to what they're saying? Because they're all saying the same thing. They're just all saying it differently, but they're all saying the same thing.
Yeah, we've had a lot of that kind of experience too. There's really only been just really one episode that we've done that really kind of pushed me back, and that was his name's Johnny G, but we call him Jason Porn, because he was all about, at the time we interviewed him, he was all about spectrophilia, having sex with ghosts or having sex with people who had sex with ghosts, and he has like an OnlyFans, and that's what his whole thing is about, is porn centered around ghosts. And halfway through the interview, he drops on us that he was in the military, like special ops, and he feels like he was a remote controlled soldier.
MK Ultra.
Yeah, that kind of thing. But long after they had, you know, quote unquote, discontinued MK Ultra. And so we had to do some follow-up, and we had some people on who talked about him being part of a Men in Black or an MK Ultra type program where they could remote access or remote activate him, and then he'd just basically be under government control. And then he said he spent basically 2 weeks of his life where he was asleep the whole time, but he woke up in a hospital in another country
after he murdered a couple people.
After he murdered 2 people,
and he got shot in the head. Said he got shot in the head, and it just kind of deflected off. And it was a crazy story.
Crazy story. But he had a video. He had a video from the 2 weeks. And that's the part that I was like,
oh, he was passed out asleep, but they had video, huh?
They had him on video in like a cop car in Colombia.
Oh my God!
In a hospital where he's like bleeding from his head, and then he said, and the video is like less than a minute, but then he said after that clip took place, it was like a week later, he woke up in a hospital in another country. It was like Peru or Bolivia or something, and he has no real idea what happened, except during that 2 weeks, he woke up one time driving a car as it was running over two people.
Wow.
That's crazy.
That is crazy.
That is.
I think our craziest guest was somebody that was going to come on and talk about frequency with music, like 432 frequency, and then how that affects people, and that he was a musician and he did all his music in 432, and that's what we were going to talk about. Maybe, I don't know, James, maybe 5-7 minutes into the conversation, he flips off the rails, and now he's a QAnon guy. This is right during the Trump is running for president again, election fraud, Kennedy's alive, all these things are happening.
Babies. I mean, it was everywhere.
It was everywhere. It was the weirdest conversation. And the whole time that this guy is talking, me and James just kind of sat there because I just could not believe what was happening.
How far we got off
How
the rails.
far we had gotten off the rails with music, and now, JFK son is going to come down the street any day and take the presidency, and we've got proof, and Trump is my best friend, and it was a trip.
And it was crazy shit.
The Rockefellers are the ones who changed it to 432. He didn't even get that far, did he?
No, we didn't get in. We didn't even touch the frequency thing.
No, we didn't even talk about it because
I think we hit every other conspiracy. But we never even talked about the frequencies. Yeah, I mean, we were hitting reptilians.
We occasionally do explorations. It's just Kyle and me, where we look at a topic, we research it, and then we kind of present an episode on that topic. We've done some government conspiracies, but it's just us. Like that way we're not going sideways. It's just the two of us. So.
Yeah,
it's safer. And he did touch on reptilians, though.
Oh, we hit everything.
He touched on reptilians and magic words. So there was a little bit of paranormal woo-woo in the episode, which is why we just let it roll.
Yeah.
And it was crazy. After we talked about it and stuff, it's like, well, you know what? By definition, that was some crazy shit, man.
I love that stuff, though. I love when we can get guests on that can talk, and just it's so interesting that you don't even want to stop them, and you just let him tell you what he needs to tell you. And I just love going into that rabbit hole with them.
And my always thing is, I believe that they believe it. I believe that you believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some of these people come on and they tell us our stories, and after they tell you the story, and you think, oh, that's incredible. But it's like, whatever I think, it doesn't matter. These people believe what they're telling us, And that's kind of the basis of what we do. You gotta believe what they're saying, because what if what they're saying is true? We don't know. We weren't there.
And I look at it, who are we to tell them that their experiences aren't true?
Right.
Yeah, we definitely don't spend a lot of time trying to debunk anybody.
Oh, never. We never try to debunk.
Just
if anything, come on and just come on and just tell us your story. And we've had marketing people approach us, and they want to tell us their paranormal UF stories or their Bigfoot stories or their cryptid stories, and people who would never, ever, ever probably come out. And so, James, you were right. People do want to share their stories and know that it's okay, that people won't say that they're crazy.
Yep. They need a comfortable place to be able to come to it.
Yeah.
And so we had one guest describe it as holding space. Another guest described it as our ministry.
I like that. Yeah.
And
it's interesting, just people just need a safe place to share this stuff, and shows like ours are giving them that, and they feel comfortable, and I always think it's funny, like, when we were talking about, we'll have someone come on and be talking about one topic, and then, oh gosh, did I ever, I've never told anyone I saw a UFO or I saw a ghost, and it's like, it has nothing to do with what they're on there for, but now they feel comfortable and they're willing to share, and I like that.
I do too. I agree.
Well, very good. And it sounds like, we're all birds of a feather here.
Serious. You're our people.
Appreciate
Yeah.
it. Where can people find your podcast?
Oh my God, James, this
That's
is
you,
your
Cal.
moment. This is me.
Yeah, this is all you.
All right, so we
She's
we
PR.
are we are at www.thatsomecrazyshitpodcast.com. As far as listening, we're on Spotify, Audible, Google, Apple. We're pretty much on every website or every platform that you can use for a podcast. You can also get us on social media. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on Twitter, we're on LinkedIn, and we're also on YouTube.
Thank you guys so much for coming on. Those are some great stories, some great experiences. Like, we're comparing notes.
I liked it. It was fun.
Really appreciate it. So as far as everybody else, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share with us your stories, your thoughts, and we'll see you next time. Until then, keep on exploring the edges of the unknown.